Hello viewers, welcome to Newsweek South Asia, a program that talks about breeding of terrorism and its impact on South Asian nations. Let's begin with the headlines first. Afghanistan likely to relapse into hotbed of terrorism. Pak-backed terrorists targeting minority Hindus, non-locals in Kashmir. And Islamabad's role in Mumbai terror attack exposed. As the Taliban reclaim the water in Afghanistan, security experts around the world warned that the country could again become a hotbed of terrorist training and indoctrination. The Taliban has promised that it will never allow its territory to be used by foreign terror organizations as it had for Al-Qaeda ahead of the 9/11 attacks. But many in Afghanistan and West have reacted with skepticism. They are warning that the Taliban rule in Afghanistan is radically reshaping terrorist groups in South Asia and around the world. A report.
The Taliban hoisted a giant flag of their movement near the Afghan capital around 8 months after their return to power. Several hundred Taliban, many armed, attended the ceremony presided over by Deputy Prime Minister Abdul Salam Hanafi near the mostly deserted diplomatic enclave in Kabul. Some of those in attendance showed their joy by touching or grabbing the flag before it was raised. It is all happening at a time when the international community is concerned over the threat of terrorism that has emerged in the country since the takeover. Intelligence agencies worldwide are warning that Taliban rule in Afghanistan is radically reshaping terrorist and militant groups in South Asia and around the world. Despite Taliban promises to sever ties with Al-Qaeda and oppose terror groups such as the Islamic State's Afghan affiliate as codified in the 2020 Doha Agreement with the United States, there has been scant evidence of progress.
There is a possibility, and we've seen signs of that according to this media report, that they're recruiting the orphans of the security forces of Afghanistan who fought against them and who lost their lives. Now they've left orphans behind. So they're recruiting them, trying to turn them into suicides. Now, given all of this, I can see that within the next few years, Afghanistan will turn into a breeding ground of terror.
Recently, a UNSC report revealed that Al-Qaeda retains a presence in Afghanistan in the provinces of Ghazni, Helmand, Kandahar, Nimruz, Paktika and Zabul, where the group fought alongside the Taliban against the ousted government. The report also claimed that slain Al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden's son visited Afghanistan last year. It further revealed that Amin Muhammadul Haq Sam Khan, who coordinated security for bin Laden, returned to his home in Afghanistan in late August last year. The Taliban government rejected the report, but it is very difficult for Taliban rulers to deny another claim of UN report that Islamic State Khorasan is taking advantage of the turmoil in the country. According to the report, Islamic State Khorasan or ISIS-K is recruiting fighters from the Eastern Turkestan Islamic Movement and the Turkestan Islamic Party, among other foreign terrorist groups. It aims to position itself as the chief rejectionist force in Afghanistan and to expand into neighboring Central and South Asian countries. Terrorism now is posing a serious threat to Afghanistan. Therefore, many world leaders and security experts believe that the forces which helped Taliban in regaining power should be held accountable. Pakistan is now in the hot seat for providing a haven for terrorists, and many Afghans have been demanding action against Islamabad since the day Taliban took over Kabul.
Pakistan should be sanctioned. I have been vocal about that, but unfortunately, I do not see that happening. President Biden has mentioned on several occasions that Pakistan is much more important to the US than Afghanistan ever would be. Pakistan is, of course, always touting its status as a nuclear power. It has the 6th largest army in the world. It's a country of over 200 million people. So even if it's not sanctioned, it has to be held accountable. I mean, over the past 2 decades, there was a Congress commissioned a bipartisan Afghanistan group that all these recommendations to the U.S. Congress and to the U.S. government. And throughout all of those reports, they made the recommendation that you have to address the Pakistan problem.
The UN member states are concerned that if Afghanistan descends into further chaos, some Afghan and foreign violent extremists may shift allegiances to Islamic State. The conflict landscape of Afghanistan is diverse and multifaceted, characterized by rivalries between jihadist groups and competition for recruits. The impacts go beyond the borders of Afghanistan. The events in Afghanistan, therefore, continue to demand great attention.
Let's now move to India's Jammu and Kashmir, where the situation is tense as terrorists continue to target civilians in brutal attacks. With the number of victims being minorities or non-locals, the attacks have sparked fear among civilians. Terrorists have targeted and killed 11 civilians in Kashmir Valley over the past 2 weeks. On April 4th, there was a spate of terrorist attacks in the valley in which a Kashmiri Pandit, 1 CRPF personnel were killed and 2 migrant workers were injured. We have a report. The year 1990 saw a vicious hate campaign against the Kashmiri Hindus in Kashmir Valley. A culture of impunity created over the years, backed by religious fanaticism, led to their genocide. And the story did not end there. The brutal target of the native inhabitants still continues today. This time the victim is Balakrishnan, an innocent Kashmiri Pandit shopkeeper in Shopian district. Terrorists opened fire on him and injured his hand and leg. He was immediately rushed to an army hospital. After the recent incident, Kashmiri Pandits took out a rally to protest against the selective attacks on the Hindus by terrorists in the valley. Kashmiri Hindus raised anti-Pakistan and anti-terrorist slogans and demanded justice for their community member.
ये जो हमारा कैंडल लाइट प्रोटेस्ट है, यहाँ पे आज जो दरिंदों ने एक गिरोनी जो ये हरकत की है, एक आम इंसान पे गोलियां चलाई है, CRPF वालों पे गोलियां चलाई है, उसमें एक जवान शहीद हो गया। मुझे समझ में नहीं आ रहा है ये कौन सा जहाद है, कैसा जहाद है। इस महीने में तो शैतान भी बंद रहता है, लेकिन इन दरिंदों ने इस माही मुबारक के मौके पे एक आम इंसान को जो अपने फैमिली के लिए जहाद कर रहा था, जो बाहर से आया था अपने फैमिली के लिए, जो असल में जहाद कर रहा था, उस पे गोलियां चलाई। ये उस लिए हमारे और साउथ कश्मीर में भी कल से कुछ इनोसेंट लोगों पे गोलियां चलाई, 1-2 वहां पे भी कल शहीद हो गए, उसलिए हमारे।
The recent attack on Balakrishnan is just another addition to the list of continuous attacks on Kashmiri Pandits. Last year in October, Pakistan-sponsored terrorists shot dead a prominent businessman, Ajmal in Srinagar. In fact, in the same month, a government school teacher was also killed by terrorists after he urged his students to stand in attention during the national anthem. Not only did Balakrishnan become the victim of the recent terrorist attack, in 2 other incidents on April 4th, terrorists targeted 2 non-local labourers in Pulwama and opened fire on a CRPF personnel in Srinagar. Attacks on civilians in the Kashmir Valley have witnessed a spike in the last few months. In 2020, as many as 33 civilians and 56 security personnel lost their lives in terror-related incidents. While in 2021, the number of civilians killed stood at 40 and that of security personnel stood at 20. Of late, terrorist handlers sitting in Pakistan have changed their strategy as far as attacks and targeted killings are concerned. They are now concentrating mainly on soft targets.
Ever since the talk of return of Kashmiri Pandits was going on, and the Indian Parliament has also discussed this, Pakistan, to send out a clear message to these Kashmiri Pandits that they are not welcome into the valley, has targeted killings of Kashmiri Pandits. This again has raised a little bit of fear amongst them. All this is being done so that the Kashmir Valley seems to be unsettled. The people over there do not get into the complacency of having peace. Tourists don't come there. The business establishments don't function, and there is a sense of uncertainty that is there, so that Pakistan can use its propaganda that it has been using all these years to try to wean away the public of Kashmir.
Though there has been a spike in Pakistan-backed terror attacks in the valley, the Indian security forces have always managed to foil all the devious agendas of Islamabad. According to recent data produced by the Ministry of Home Affairs, a declining trend in terrorist incidents has been seen in Jammu and Kashmir, with a figure showing a downfall of almost 50% in the cases from 417 in 2018 to 229 in 2021. This is the reason behind the disappointment of the Pakistani establishment and Pak-sponsored terrorists in the valley. The brutal killings of innocent civilians and security personnel in Kashmir reflect the frustration among the terrorists and their mentors across the border. However, such barbaric terror attacks will not succeed in undermining Jammu and Kashmir development journey, as people in Kashmir will not let this conspiracy succeed. Pakistan has an established history of harboring, aiding and actively supporting terrorists. There exists a well-established nexus between Pakistan's civilian government, military, inter-services intelligence and the numerous terrorist groups trained and armed in the country. Recently, Pakistan's Interior Minister exposed his country and confessed terrorist Ajmal Kasab's Pakistan's connection. A report.
On November 26, 2008, the terrorist organization Lashkar-e-Taiba attacked the financial capital of India, Mumbai. Crowded places and sensitive locations, including Hotel Taj, the Oberoi, Chhatrapati Shivaji Terminus, Nariman House and others, were targeted during the attack. The attack claimed more than 170 lives and left 300 injured. Ajmal Kasab, who was the sole surviving attacker captured by the security forces, later confirmed the assault was planned, coordinated and conducted by the LAT and other Pakistan-based terror modules. In testimonies acquired by the intelligence agencies in the country, Kasab was quoted as saying, "All the attackers came from Pakistan and their controllers too were all operating from that country." Kasab was hanged to death on November 21, 2012. Pakistan has often denied its role in the attack and its ties with Kasab. But now the Pakistani Home Minister Sheikh Rashid himself is confessing Ajmal Kasab's Pakistan connection. Recently, while speaking at an event where Imran Khan, Prime Minister of Pakistan, was also among the attendees, Pakistan's minister claimed that former Prime Minister of Pakistan, Nawaz Sharif, had provided detailed information of Pakistani terrorist Ajmal Kasab to India.
अजमल कसाब का पता इंडिया को इन्होंने दिया। इन्होंने इंडिया को पता बताया कि अजमल कसाब जो है, उन्होंने जो फरीद कोर्ट का एड्रेस है वो नवाज शरीफ ने दिया। अगर ये बात गलत साबित हो तो जो चोर की सजा वो मेरी सजा है।
The Mumbai attack remains an open case, with Pakistani state complicity still debated, but the role of LAT and individual officers within the ISI is now perceived in most quarters as beyond serious dispute. Pakistan has yet to take action on the multiple dossiers shared by India. None of the prime accused in the case have been prosecuted so far. Islamabad has been doing a U-turn on its promises, claiming a lack of evidence, a claim which has only exposed its ill intentions as well as its poor track record in countering terror.
देखिए, भारत ने पूरी तरह से जितने भी डॉसियर्स थे वो सब पाकिस्तान को अजमल कसाब के बारे में सब दे दिया है, लेकिन वहाँ की सरकार जो है, वहाँ के कोर्ट्स जो हैं, अगर उसका संज्ञान नहीं लेंगे, उसको पूरी तरह से नहीं करेंगे, क्योंकि कैंगरू कोर्ट है वहाँ पे और उसी तरह की वहाँ की सरकार है जो मिली हुई है पूरी तरह से टेररिस्ट के साथ में। तो जब उनका पूरा सिस्टम ही वो उस तरह से काम करता है तो कोई कुछ भी बोल दे, उससे क्या फ़र्क पड़ने वाला है। अब कल परसों इमरान खान कुछ दिन पहले मोदी जी की फॉरेन पॉलिसी की बहुत तारीफ़ करने लगे अपने आप को जस्टिफाई करने के लिए। तो ये बड़े अपॉर्चुनिस्टिक सिस्टम है वहाँ पे। इंटरनेशनल कम्युनिटी का अपना मुझे नहीं लगता है कोई कुछ कर पाएगी या कोई कुछ करेगी, लेकिन पाकिस्तान को ये दुनिया जानती है कि ये टेरर स्पॉन्सर कंट्री है। उनकी एक फॉरेन पॉलिसी है जो भारत के खिलाफ है, और उस पॉलिसी में जो क्रॉस बॉर्डर टेररिज्म है उसका बहुत बड़ा रोल है, और अजमल कसाब उसी का एक हिस्सा था।
Pakistan has proven inconsistent in acting against terrorists based on its territory. The international community should now designate Pakistan as a state sponsor of terrorism.
Pakistan supports terrorism and itself faces its consequences. But now the situation is getting worse. The ongoing political crisis in Pakistan has come as an opportunity for terror outfits to increase both their influence and strength. To discuss on the issue, we have with us geopolitical expert Qamar Agha. As you know, Pakistan has a long history of political instability. And once again, the present Imran Khan-led government is in crisis. Do you think that terror groups in Pakistan can take the leverage of the ongoing political crisis in the country?
In a situation like this, where the political parties are virtually, marginalized or weakened, and country has neither the spiritual leader nor any charismatic political leader in the country. So the major gainer would be extremist Islamic organizations and militant groups in Pakistan. And I think Pakistan Army, have been supporting these groups for a very long time, except one, that is Taliban Pakistan, that is opposed to Pakistan military establishment, but others are pro-Pakistan.
In case military dictatorship returns in Pakistan, do you think it could control domestic terrorism in the country? Or will we see a new era of mullah military nexus?
There are you cannot control all the militant groups. It is true that they were created or with the help of army was behind it. And they have developed so many militant groups who were funded by them and trained by them. But some of them, have turned against the army and have joined the TTP. And that is a major problem, because they have their own vested interests.
Considering all the recent developments, is it right to say that our neighboring country is moving slowly towards complete chaos and anarchy?
Pakistani state is collapsing, is a failed state. Serious economic crisis and political instability shows that it is moving towards chaos and anarchy if it is not checked immediately. And there are the problem is, the military establishment doesn't allow democracy to thrive, doesn't give other states the powers which they wanted. They have been desired or developed those states, those provinces. So that is a problem. So if the army continues to play a greater role in political affairs of Pakistan, in that case, there is a strong possibility that the chaos and anarchy would spread throughout the country.
Thank you, Mr. Agha, for giving us your valuable time. And with that, we come to the end of this edition of Newsweek South Asia. We will be back next week with more news, views and analysis from the subcontinent. Meanwhile, do keep writing to us at nwsa@anin.com. This is Shivangi Mishra signing off on the behalf of the entire production team of Newsweek South Asia. Goodbye and take care.